Hey everybody, Average Joe back with another video. So last night I got like 3 coats of primer on this guy, so it should be ready for the color now. Originally I was thinking Chevy engine red, but I think that's just a little bit too much orange for the car. I mean, the car's like red and black. And I think that orange in the Chevy engine red is just a little too orange. So I went back and just got some straight red. So let's go ahead and get this guy sprayed. Yeah, so I think switching to just the straight red was the right move for this motor. My biggest concern was with all the black and red wire loom that I put in there. I think the Chevy engine red was just too much orange, especially up against the wire loom, and then the engine bay's red, the car's red. So I think just going straight red was the right way to go with this. But I'm gonna let this coat dry up, and then I'll probably put another coat or 2 on it, and we'll start peeling the tape back and get this thing back on the engine stand and ready to reassemble. So that's gonna do it for right now, but I'll bring you guys back in a second with the unmasking. So I think they do like you gotta like snap. Alright guys, got a couple coats on here, so let's unwrap this thing. It's like freaking car guy Christmas right now. Oh man. There it is, guys. Nice and fresh, bright red. Oh man. Alright, so this weekend we're gonna get started putting this thing back together. I'll start with gapping the rings. That's probably going to be the most tedious part of this whole thing. Just making sure all the ring gaps are good. And we'll kind of go over how we're going to do that when we get to it. But man, this thing looks so good. Let's get a couple pictures up of that. Alright guys, I think that's going to do it for right now. I'll go ahead and throw it on the engine stand, and then we'll get a close-up of it. But yeah, be right back. Alright, so this is where this thing's gonna live for a little bit until we get it all finished up. So there it is. Looking good. Man, that red looks good. So here's kind of the reason behind that, because I wanted it to be a better match than like Chevy engine, orange, red, whatever. But cool. Man, this thing's gonna be so sweet. Alright guys, we got another shipment of parts in. So we got our new oil pump here. It's actually the same pump that came with the LS1. It's just new because that one was all kinds of tore up. I took it apart. I took the cover off and I checked the pump gear and everything, and just kind of inspected it all, and it was gouged, and the lobes for the oil pump were all notched out and stuff, and it just looked like there'd been a lot of trash running through it. So I decided to order another one, and it actually ended up being the same pump that was in it, the 10295, which is the standard volume high pressure. So it creates a higher pressure in your oil system so that you get better lube to your surfaces and everything, which is what we're going to want in a race motor. And it comes with some instructions that I'll want to go through later, just kind of read over and see what's going on there. And then it also comes with 2 springs. I think one of them creates even higher pressure. I'll have to kind of go through those. Like I said, just read through the instructions and figure out what's going on, and some fresh O-rings. And then some color variation or spotting maker from lot to lot. This variation will not affect the pump's performance or survivability. Okay, so that's just like a anodizing note or whatever. So yeah, so that's that, and came with some nice stickers. So we might try to find a spot in the engine bay for that guy. But yeah, so there's that. These back over here. And then we also got the Trick Flow adjustable push rod. So this is gonna allow me to properly measure the height of the push rod. So you can see it just kind of threads out, and I think it's 50 thousandths per turn, something like that. So we'll use that to measure our push rod height to make sure that we got the right size push rods. And then we got valve seals. So got to reorder valve seals. So apparently these don't work with the dual valve springs. Is it because of this? I'll have to look into that. I don't know. It didn't, when I ordered them, it didn't say they didn't work with dual valve springs. We'll open that box in a minute. And we've got head gasket for the 4074. I believe I actually ordered like a 4080 for head gasket, which was the closest they had. Yeah, so there's that. So that's it. That's what I got from Summit. So I'll have to reorder those valve seals. Dang it. At least it's going to be a few days before I get to that anyway, so that's alright. Alright, and now this guy. These are some like remanufactured rocker arms. I do believe they're good, rebuildable, lowest rocker arm cores, all pay 50 for a useful set of 16. Oh hey, this guy's from Indiana. Nice. So these, yeah, like I said, these are remanufactured rocker arms. Oh, yeah, they come with new bolts. They've got the BTR trunnion upgrade already done to them. And pads are in good shape. So I ordered these because all of my rocker arms were gouged at the valve stem pad. They just had big gouges in them and shit. So I was like, man, I really need some new ones. I think I had 5 that were in good shape. So it's not very helpful on a new motor, but cool. So move these in here. Storage spot for them. Get those out later once I get to that point. So these are Brand X Performance. I got them on eBay. Rocker arm set, hand selected GM cores, remanufactured Brian Twilley Racing training kit, and even has the torque spec on there. So it's pretty nice. eBay options for high quality performance, LS7 spec lifters, lifter and tray kits, timing components, hardware, and other cool LS gadgets. I might check him out. He's local, so, well, I don't know. Wherever, where'd it go? Wherever Yorktown, Indiana is. I'll have to look that up. Figure out where he's at. Might do more business with him. So that's that. We still have the lifter set waiting on. With Corona and all that, it's been really hard to find a lot of stuff. I did find some on eBay, said they were getting ready, they were ready to ship. So hopefully they actually do ship, and we'll have those next week, I hope. But we'll see. So for now, I think that's about it as far as parts go. So let's get started on gapping some rings. So we got Summit has kind of a cheat sheet on your installation guide and everything, and it comes with ring gap suggestions here. So you've got your top ring, cast or forged pistons, and then hyper-eutectic pistons. I think that's how you say it, hyper-eutectic, which is what we have. So we have the hyper-eutectic pistons. I believe I might need to double check that. No, these are forged pistons. So we'll go with the forged listings here. And you've got a street strip, circle track drag, forced induction up to 15 pounds, forced induction over 15 pounds, nitrous up to 200 horsepower, and nitrous over 200 horsepower. So when you go to gap your rings, you really want to figure out kind of what you're going to use this motor for. So street would just be like your daily driver, to and from work, grocery getter kind of thing. Street strip would be daily driver, weekend warrior kind of car, something take to autocross on the weekends, but you drive to work on Monday kind of thing. Circle track drag, so that's going to be kind of like your dedicated race car, whether it's like circle track, road course, drag strip, like that's all you're doing, and that's naturally aspirated, no boost, no nitrous. And then you're looking at forced induction and nitrous up to 15 pounds or up to 200 horsepower. Those are actually have the same suggestions there. And then over 15 pounds of boost or over 200 horsepower nitrous also have the same kind of suggestions. So this car is going to be on the street every now and then, but it's mostly going to be autocross, road course, possibly drift. So it's going to see some high revs, possibly get boosted in the future. Probably not more than 15 pounds, I don't think, because I've got high compression on this car. It's coming in right at 11.7 to 1. So I'm going to be running 93 octane in it for sure. And then maybe next year switch to E85. So maybe after we go to E85, we might be able to slap a turbo on there. And if we have to, we can get like an extra thick head gasket to kind of drop compression. But so I think I'm going to go with the somewhere between the circle track drag and forced induction up to 15 pounds. So to calculate that, you take your bore diameter and you multiply it by the setting here. So Circle track drag says times 5 thousandths, and force induction says times 6 thousandths. So we'll just split the difference, go 5.5 thousandths, which is, I think I calculated it yesterday, comes out to about a gap of 22 thousandths on the top ring, and then 22 to 24 on the second ring, because there is a slight difference between the top and second ring. And then the oil rail just has a minimum gap of 15 thousandths. So we'll just check that, make sure. But I think I looked at it and it was like 25 or 30 thousandths already. So it'll be all right. And then we've got our ring filer here. I'll show you that in a minute. So enough chit chat. Let's get to it. We'll start with the top ring. And I think what I'm gonna do, I already kind of looked through these. The top ring and the second ring are slightly different, so it won't be too bad to keep track of which one's which. But I think I'm just going to do one piston at a time. We'll do the top ring first. Set it over here. Do the second ring. Set it over here. Double check the oil grooves. And then we'll move on to the next one, and so on. So this is going to be the tedious process. I'll probably show you guys the first piston and how I'm doing it, and then I'll just kind of blast out the rest of them, and then we'll come back because we'll get all the ring gaps done, and then I'll come back and we'll do piston assembly and get the rods on and actually start putting the block together. So yeah, let's actually while we're on this one, so there is a specific orientation for the rings. These particular rings doesn't matter, but some rings are slightly different. You might have a dot or a chamfer or a groove or something in the ring. You want to make sure that you follow the guide and orient them correctly, just to make sure that you get the right function out of them. The second groove actually is shaped more like this guy. I don't know if you guys will be able to see it or not, but it's shaped more like that guy. And the top ring is shaped like that guy. So, all right, well, let's get started, I guess. Put those right there. Move you guys over here. All right, so this is cylinder number 1, 3, 5, 7. I've got my tray numbered over there. So as we get them done, that's this ring is for this piston. The next ring is for this piston. It's very important to keep them all organized and in proper locations, just to make your motor run as best as possible. So this is just a like a squaring block kind of thing. Just kind of put it in the piston there. Give it a spin. Just make sure our ring is squared up. And I just threw this on the lathe and turned it down to the diameter of my bore, minus a few thousandths. And as you can see, it really just kind of knocked the corners off of it, because that was about the biggest block I could find of scrap plastic. Some people will use an old piston and put it down in there, but we went so much bigger on these bores that I don't have a piston big enough to do it. They do make an adjustable tool that you can use on this, but I didn't buy it. So, all right, feeler gauges. Okay, so we got our feeler gauges, and we're looking for 20 thousandths. So we've got 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 11, 12, 13, 14, 16, 18, 20. So here's 20. So we're just going to take that and see if it fits. It does not. So let's go to 18. It does not fit. 16. 16 starts. So 14 should definitely go. Yep. 14 goes almost all the way down. Yeah, okay. So we're at about 14 thousandths gap, and we want to be right at 20. So now we got to go to the ring filer, which is over here. And I think I'm going to set up a separate camera for that. Take this out. Okay, so we just did our first filing. I'll put this back in the bore, and then just re-square it. And then take our feeler gauges. I think I'm just going to leave these on here. Looking for 20. Not quite. 18. Okay. See, so yeah, we definitely need to be a little more careful. I took quite a bit off on that one. So we're right at 18, and then 20 just barely starts in there. So I only need to take just a fuzz more off of there. So I need to be pretty careful on this one. Okay. So we'll come back here, and then I'm just gonna check for some burrs. Okay. Back in the bore. Ooh. All right. So it's just, as you can see, it's not like sliding down or anything, so that's good. It's a decent fit. So we're gonna go with that. So cylinder 1 is top ring is done. So now let's get the second ring. And again, there's a specific orientation for this. So the second ring is actually shaped like this. It's got a little notch at the bottom of it. So that's going to be facing down. So we want to make sure that's how we set it in there. Pop that in there. And then our gap for the second ring should be about 22 thousandths. So it's slightly bigger than the top ring. So 22. So we're gonna check. 22 goes about halfway and gets snug. So basically we just want to kind of fuzz that surface just a hair. We got a little bit of burr there. I think that'll work. So there's cylinder number 1 complete. So I'm gonna just go ahead and work on getting the rest of these knocked out. Let's go ahead and just check the oil rings just to make sure those are good. So for those you want, let's say, 15 thousandths minimum. So here's your wavy dude. Throw this guy in here. Yeah, so there's plenty of a gap there. I can tell you right now there's enough there, but go ahead and check it anyway. Yeah, you can see a big old gap there, which is fine. Like I said, it's just a minimum check here. So, yep, plenty of space. And throw the second one on just for good measure, because there's 2 of these per cylinder. Yep. So, all right. So there's cylinder number 1 complete. So just kind of work my way through, and I'll come back to you guys once this is all done, and we'll start assembling pistons. So, catch you in a little bit. Alright guys, we got all the rings gapped, so now we're going to get ready to assemble the pistons. So I'm going to start just with piston 1, and we'll do the wrist pin locks. I'll get one side in, and then we'll start putting the rings on. So I figured out what these extra rings were for. They are oil spacer rings. So what you need them for is, I don't know if you can see here, but this is your oil groove. Okay. The wrist pin intersects that groove. So there's no support right here for the oil groove or the oil rings. So this spacer is a tighter diameter, so it's gonna go in here and lock in against the inside diameter of that groove, and then it's gonna provide the support for that section right there. So all you need to do on this one, it doesn't have a specific gap that you need. So you just want to make sure there's a little bit of a indent or detent right here. So you want that facing down, and that's going to keep that from spinning. So we'll set this in here. And then you just want to make sure that it's sitting all the way down to the bottom, and that you have that detent inside this section on one side or the other. So if you notice, now we're not going to be able to get that wrist pin in there. So we'll actually have to assemble the connecting rods first before we can finish the oil groove. Which, I mean, it's not the end of the world or anything. So, and it's actually, you probably can't tell, but the major diameter of that groove, the ring, is actually smaller than the piston diameter. So we're not going to have any issues with that contacting the cylinder wall, which is that's its purpose. Like, it's not supposed to touch the cylinder wall or anything. I mean, that's what all the rest of the rings are for. So, all right, so that's good. And the gap's good. Like I said, there's not like a specific gap. You just want to make sure that it's not overlapping itself. So that'll work. Now I just got to figure out the orientation for the pistons. So to do that, I'm going to rotate this up. Rotate the motor up. And then I'm going to take a cylinder head. So this is our intake side, right? This is our exhaust side. So when we put this on the motor, it's going to go on just, well, it's going to go on just like this. Intake is to the front, and then if we rotate. Okay, so on cylinders 1 through 7, 1, 3, 5, and 7, our intake is going to be facing the front of the motor, and on cylinders 2, 4, 6, and 8, our intake is going to be facing the back. So we should be able to read the engrave on both sides. Now, the reason we need to know that is because of our connecting rod orientation. Connecting rods have to go on a specific direction. So if you can see in here, the bearings are actually offset to one side or the other. And the reason for that, so if you look, you can see on this side, the bearing comes almost all the way up to the edge. And on this side, there's a space with a heavy chamfer. So the reason for that is to allow clearance for the corner radius in the crank. So if you look at the crank, there's going to be, grab one of the old ones here. So this is the old crank, but if you look in here, there's a big radius, and the new crank actually has a slightly larger radius. So the gap on the connecting rod is actually allowing for that radius. So we want to make sure that cylinder 1 it's facing forward, cylinder 2 is facing back. So we just want to make sure that we have our orientation correct on all of our connecting rods when we assemble them. So cylinder 1, we're going to put the chamfered side towards the intake. Okay. And actually I think these are going to turn out to where, yeah, they assemble identically. So the chamfered side is going to go on the intake notch on all of these. So that's good to know. And then Lingenfelter also labeled all the connecting rods and caps for me when they check the clearances, so that way everything matches where it's supposed to be. So we're going to start with, I think I'm just going to go ahead and put a lock ring in one side of each of these. I'll probably just do it on the intake side. So I'll put a lock ring in here. So then we'll put the connecting rod in, and then we'll drop the wrist pin in. And when we do that, then we'll put that second lock ring in. So yeah, that's what we're gonna do right now. Intake side. need to watch a video on this.